Nia sao, bei sirab or sur bao. The forest was silent, a silence so profound it echoed in Jason's ears. He smelled danger, a metallic, acrid scent unlike anything he'd ever encountered. Linda was gone. Her golden eyes, blazing with the ancestral power of the wolves, were not there to guide his way. Someone had abducted her, but who would dare kidnap the woman who could command the wolves themselves? And why? A massive claw mark, unlike any wolf's, was imprinted in the earth near the cabin where she slept. Was she in greater danger than Jason could ever imagine? The forest whispered dark secrets on that starless night. The moon, a sliver of silver in the sky, barely illuminated the twisted trees, which looked like skeletal arms reaching out to grasp anyone who dared pass. Jason, the newly turned vampire, felt the night's chill seep into his bones, but an even deeper chill froze his heart. Linda had vanished. His beloved, the woman with eyes like amber and hair black as night, had been taken. The cabin, where they had shared magical moments of love and discovery, was empty, her scent, usually so strong and enveloping, reduced to a faint whisper, almost imperceptible. Only fear remained, a profound fear that made him tremble, even as an immortal. The mark left on the ground, a huge claw gouged into the damp earth, was proof of the danger. It wasn't the mark of an ordinary wolf, no. It was larger, fiercer, more sinister. Jason felt a shiver run down his spine. He had never seen such a large, terrifying claw. Could it be a monster even more powerful than the werewolves? A creature of the shadows seeking Linda's power? The power of the ancestral wolves sleeping within her, waiting for a moment of need, now awakened and threatened. He examined every inch of the cabin. No sign of a struggle, only the unsettling absence of Linda. A small piece of fabric, a scrap from her dress, was caught on a tree branch, swaying gently in the night breeze, like a silent, desperate farewell. Jason picked up the fabric, his icy fingers delicately touching the soft silk. Her scent was there, faint, but present, a thread of hope in a night of despair. He closed his eyes, concentrating, trying to sense her presence, like a keen hound. He did. A faint magical trace, almost invisible, emanated from the piece of fabric, a magical trail leading south, into the depths of the forest. The shadows seemed to conspire against him, the trees whispering secrets he couldn't understand. But the magical trail persisted, a guide bringing him hope and anguish at the same time. With each step, Jason felt the imminent presence of something menacing. The forest transformed, becoming a labyrinth of darkness and mystery. Thorny bushes tore at his clothes, branches whipped him, but he pressed on, driven by his love for Linda and by the fear of losing her forever. He remembered their moments together, the laughter, the stolen kisses under the moonlight, the tenderness in her eyes when she told him about her ancestors, about the latent power that bound her to the wolves. Suddenly, he heard a sound, a sharp cry that chilled his blood, a cry of pain, a cry of despair. Jason quickened his pace, running towards the sound. He spotted a clearing ahead, illuminated by a strange bluish light. And there, in the center of the clearing, tied to an ancient, thick tree, was Linda. Her eyes, usually bright, were dull, filled with fear. She was weak, her breathing labored, and beside her, a huge, monstrous creature unlike anything Jason had ever seen. A colossal shadow with sharp claws, embedded in her skin, and grotesque teeth that seemed destined to crush bones. It was a creature of the shadows, a being from the depths of the forest, with an aura of malignant power so strong it nearly knocked him down. The creature looked at Jason, its red eyes gleaming with unspeakable cruelty. The sound of the claw mark in the ground returned to his memory, and a wave of terror washed over Jason. He knew in that moment that the fight for Linda's life and love would be a battle beyond anything he had ever imagined. The fight for the love of his life was just beginning, and he was alone against a powerful and implacable enemy. Linda needed him, and he would save her, no matter the cost. The creature of the shadows let out a hoarse laugh, a sound that echoed through the clearing, making the trees tremble. Its red eyes fixed on Jason, radiating deep ancestral hatred. Linda, bound to the ancient tree, trembled, her lips cracked and dry. Jason felt a pang of pain at the sight of her suffering, his beloved trapped and defenseless before such a powerful enemy. He remembered the soft touch of her hair, the intoxicating scent of her skin, and it gave him the strength to face the creature. The monster seemed made of darkness, a mass of shadows and sharp claws, its teeth like gleaming blades under the bluish light. It was larger than any wolf, more terrifying than any creature Jason had seen in his many years of immortal existence. The air grew heavy, charged with a malignant energy that threatened to suffocate Jason. He felt fear, a different fear than he had ever felt before, a fear that gnawed at his soul, but his love for Linda was stronger, an invisible shield protecting him from the darkness. Jason advanced, his teeth gleaming under the bluish light. He had no weapons, only his fists and the newfound power of his new existence as a vampire. The creature laughed again, a triumphant sound, and lunged at Jason, its claws tearing through the air. Jason barely dodged, feeling the cold wind of the monster's attack on his face. The fight began, a whirlwind of quick, furious blows. Jason, despite his supernatural strength, was at a disadvantage. The creature was agile, its movements unpredictable. Every blow was charged with malignant power, an energy that seemed drawn from the shadows themselves. The monster landed a terrible blow on Jason. Jason felt a sharp pain, a burning in his bones, but he did not retreat. He bit his lip, tasting the metallic tang of blood, and counterattacked. He used his speed and agility, dodging the creature's brutal blows, trying to find a gap in its relentless defense. The combat was a deadly dance, a ballet of horror under the bluish light. With every movement, Jason felt the danger, the threat of death hanging over him. But he refused to give up. His love for Linda was his fuel, his life force. He could feel Linda's fear, the silent despair emanating from her. She could no longer speak. She only trembled, her eyes fixed on the brutal combat. Jason felt a new kind of fear, the fear of not being able to protect her, the fear of losing her forever. This fear, however, did not paralyze him. On the contrary, it made him fight with even more strength, with more determination. The fight seemed endless. Jason was exhausted, his body aching, but he continued to fight. He needed to find a weakness in the creature, something that would allow him to turn the tide. The creature, in turn, seemed unstoppable, its power unshakable. Each blow, though dodged by Jason, left deep marks, silent threats that drained his strength. Suddenly, Jason noticed something. The bluish light illuminating the clearing was not natural. It seemed artificial, emanating from an object near the tree where Linda was bound. While fighting, he observed a small amulet hanging from the trunk, emitting a soft blue light, a light that seemed to control the monster. Jason realized that the creature was connected to that source of power, a source he needed to destroy to win the battle. He needed to get closer, but the risk was extremely high. Every second, he felt his powers diminish. His love for Linda, however, pushed him forward. He had to try. He had to win. The fate of his love, and the survival of both, depended on his next move. The fight was frenetic, a deadly dance between Jason's supernatural strength and the malignant power of the creature of the shadows. Every blow was a risk, every dodge a narrow victory. Sweat poured down Jason's face, mixing with the blood flowing from a deep wound in his arm. The creature roared, its blows relentless, as if it wanted to crush Jason to the last thread of his immortal existence. Linda, bound to the tree, watched the fight with wide eyes, fear etched on her pale face. The air was heavy, charged with tension. Every breath an act of fighting against the darkness that enveloped the clearing. Jason felt his strength ebbing away, exhaustion overwhelming him. Every muscle ached, every movement was a monumental effort. But he refused to yield. The image of Linda, her eyes filled with fear, propelled him, giving him superhuman strength. He had to win. He had to save her. Amid the confusion of the fight, a glint on the tree caught his attention. A small amulet, radiating a bluish light, seemed to be the source of the creature's power. It was an invisible connection, a chain that linked the monster to that supernatural force. With a cry of determination, Jason deflected another devastating blow from the creature, leaping to the side and using the momentum to approach the tree. The monster tried to stop him, but Jason was already close. Ignoring the burning pain in his body, he jumped with all his might, striking the amulet with a well-aimed kick. The amulet shattered into 1,000 pieces, the bluish light disappearing in an instant. It was as if a powerful energy had been released, and the creature, once relentless, staggered, as if it had lost its life force. A roar of agony and defeat echoed through the forest. The creature of the shadows, once powerful and menacing, was now weakened, its body dissolving into shadows that dissipated like smoke in the wind. Jason, exhausted but victorious, collapsed beside the tree. He breathed deeply, feeling the energy return to his body. He had won. He had saved Linda. With slow, painful movements, Jason approached Linda, his hands trembling as he untied the knots that bound her. Linda's eyes met his, and a glimmer of gratitude and relief appeared in her gaze. He embraced her tightly, feeling the warmth of her body against his, the delicious perfume that calmed him. A relieved sigh escaped Linda's lips, a sigh that echoed the emotion they both felt. The joy of survival, the certainty of love, the victory over darkness. The forest, which moments before had whispered dark secrets, now seemed to sigh in relief. The moon, brighter than before, illuminated the clearing, showing the image of two lovers united in a tight embrace, their hearts beating in unison. The battle was won, but their journey was not yet over. The mark left on the earth, the monstrous claw imprinted in the damp soil, was a reminder of the darkness that still surrounded them, of other challenges and dangers that lay ahead. But there, in that moment, embraced in the silent forest under the moonlight, Jason and Linda knew that together they could face any obstacle, any threat, any darkness. Their love was stronger than any evil, more powerful than any creature of the shadows. And in that embrace, they found the strength to continue their journey together until the end of the bloody battle, until the moment when their love could finally bloom free from the shadows and the claws of death. The creature's body crumbled to dust, leaving only a deafening silence in the clearing. Jason, exhausted but victorious, untied the ropes binding Linda, who embraced him with the strength of one who had escaped death. The joy of having her back was immense, a balm for the wounds that burned in his body and soul. The moon, now high in the sky, bathed the clearing in its silvery light, painting the scene with the peace they so longed for. But the tranquility was interrupted by a distant sound, a deep and terrifying howl, unlike any wolf howl Jason had ever heard. It was a cold, menacing sound, charged with a primal and uncontrollable fury. A howl that echoed through the trees like a harbinger of a new storm, of a danger even greater than the creature of the shadows that had just been defeated. Linda, still trembling in his arms, heard the howl, and her gaze, previously full of relief, filled with terror. She recognized that sound. It was the howl of the Black Alpha, a dark legend, a giant and malignant wolf, said to be the guardian of darkness, older and more fearsome than any creature of the shadows, a being of pure malice and power, capable of destroying worlds. Jason, catching his breath, felt a chill run down his spine, a shiver that had little to do with the forest's cold and much to do with the terror of knowing what that howl meant. The battle for their survival had just begun. The Black Alpha had been awakened, attracted by the power Linda possessed, by the blood shed in the fight against the creature of the shadows. And this new enemy was much worse, much more dangerous. Linda's embrace, until then a symbol of hope, now represented a mortal warning. The joy of victory turned into a premonition of imminent catastrophe, a deep fear that chilled their hearts, despite the warmth of their united bodies. The lovers looked at each other, terror etched on their faces. The sound of the howl echoed again, closer now, more intense. The forest, which had breathed a sigh of relief, now prepared for a new battle, an even bloodier battle, a battle against evil personified. From the depths of the forest, a huge shadow emerged, obscuring the moon, promising endless darkness. The trees violently agitated, as if trying to escape the horror that approached. The fight against the creature of the shadows was over, but the search for love now would be a race against time, a fight for survival against an unimaginable enemy. The giant shadow advanced, ready to swallow Jason and Linda in its eternal darkness. What would they do now? How could they defend themselves against the Black Alpha, the guardian of eternal shadows? The episode ends with the frightening image of the monstrous silhouette of the Black Alpha, obscuring the moon and the clearing, promising a bloody battle and an uncertain fate for the lovers. The question echoes in the silence of the forest. Will they survive?